All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we are diving deep into a story that honestly sounds like it was ripped straight from a blockbuster movie script. We're talking about a tech billionaire, you know the one, famous for rockets and electric cars, making this really dramatic, some might say explosive, leap into U.S. electoral politics. Our focus today is the recent formation of the America Party. And yes, it's by none other than Elon Musk. We've gathered a whole stack of your provided sources, and in this deep dive, we're going to unpack the why behind this, frankly, pretty surprising move, what this new party aims to achieve, and, of course, the immediate reactions it's getting from all sides.
Absolutely. And our mission, really, for you, the listener, is to pull out the most important insights from all this material. We're trying to connect the dots here, between a very, very public falling out, a social media poll, and the, let's face it, complex and often tricky realities of the American political system. We want you to get not just what happened, but more importantly, what it means for the whole landscape of U.S. politics going forward. Because this isn't just like another third-party attempt we've seen before. It feels different. It's a real-time stress test, you could say, of how personal wealth and huge social media influence can directly challenge the deeply dug-in two-party system. And it could potentially force both major parties to, well, rethink their fiscal stories.
Okay, so let's unpack this. And before we dive into the split itself, maybe remind us,
Mhm.
what was the relationship like between Musk and former President Trump before all this? I seem to remember there was some pretty significant support there.
Yeah, that's really the crucial starting point, isn't it? Historically, Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, all that, and former President Trump actually had, well, a public alliance. In fact, the material we looked at indicates Musk had previously backed Trump's 2024 campaign with, get this, over $250 million.
Wow. Over 250 million. That's not small change.
Not at all. Definitely significant backing.
So, okay, what was the absolute flashpoint? What caused such a public, really dramatic split after that kind of investment?
It seems to have really come down to one specific piece of legislation. It was Trump's big, beautiful bill. Remember that? A big tax cut and spending package. Musk was fiercely opposed, just completely against it. His argument was that it would, quote, unsustainably increase the national debt and was fiscally irresponsible. He even put a number on it, estimating something like a $3.4 trillion increase over a decade.
3.4 trillion.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he actually followed through on a threat he made. He
He did.
said if the bill passed, he'd form a new political entity. And, well, it passed, and he did.
So he really put his money where his mouth was then. But was it purely a fiscal thing, just about the numbers? Or did it get personal fast?
Oh, it got personal. That's where it gets really interesting. Or maybe messy. It wasn't just a policy disagreement. It pretty quickly spiraled into this bitter personal feud. Remember, Musk had also left his role leading the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, they called it back in May 2025. That departure definitely added fuel to the fire.
Right, DOGE. And Trump had appointed him to that role, hadn't he? So how did Trump react to Musk leaving and opposing the bill?
Trump's reaction was, well, swift and very public, mostly played out on Truth Social, as you might expect. He threatened to cut billions with a B in government subsidies and contracts going to Musk's companies like Tesla and SpaceX. And then there was this particularly cutting remark where Trump suggested Musk might have to, quote, close up shop and head back home to South Africa.
Oof. Despite Musk being a U.S. citizen for decades,
Yeah.
since 2002.
Exactly, since 2002. So, yeah, a very personal jab at his origins. Trump even floated the idea of using DOGE, the department Musk used to lead, to investigate Musk's own companies.
So it's out of that whole fiery mess that the America Party is officially announced. Walk us through how that actually happened. How did it become official?
Well, it started perhaps fittingly with a poll on X, formerly Twitter. On July 4th, 2025, Musk basically asked his followers, do you want independence from the two-party, some would say uniparty system? Simple question.
Okay, a poll on X, and I bet the results were pretty clear knowing his following.
Extremely clear. Over 1.2 million votes flooded in. And the result was 65.4% saying yes, they wanted that independence.
65%. That's a strong signal.
Absolutely. So the very next day, July 5th, Musk declared, and I'm quoting here, by a factor of 2 to 1, you want a new political party and you will have it. Today, the American Party is formed to give you back your liberty freedom. Just like that.
It's just like that. Okay, so the party is formed. Let's talk about what it actually intends to do. What are the stated goals here for the America Party?
Well, its stated goals position it pretty clearly as an alternative to the Democrats and the Republicans, who Musk, often lumps together as a uniparty. That term itself, uniparty, provocative, right? But it definitely taps into this feeling some voters have, this disillusionment that maybe both major parties are, I don't know, too similar or captured by the same interests. So the party's main objective, its primary goal, is to gain real influence in Congress.
Influence in Congress.
Yeah.
Okay, how? What's the strategy to actually achieve that? It's notoriously hard for third parties.
It is. Their stated strategy, though, is quite specific. They're planning to focus resources on a pretty small number of key races. We're talking maybe 2 or 3 Senate seats or perhaps 8 to 10 House districts. The idea isn't necessarily to win outright everywhere, but to become a swing bloc, to hold the balance of power, basically, and influence legislation that way, especially since Congress often operates on such thin margins these days.
A swing bloc. Makes sense with narrow majorities. And what's the ideological focus?
According to Musk, the main focus is on fiscal conservatism, opposing government waste, bringing down spending, tying back to that original fight over the Trump bill.
And I guess when you factor in Musk's personal wealth, what is it, over $350 billion, that kind of money could make a huge difference in a few targeted races, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That financial firepower is a major factor here, potentially making the party very influential very quickly in those specific districts or states they target.
It's also worth noting he recently posted about planning some kind of inaugural American Party Congress, called it Super Fun, apparently. But concrete details seem pretty thin on the ground so far.
Yeah, super fun was the term. But actual details on when, where, who, not much yet.
Right. So naturally, a big move like this didn't go unnoticed. What have the reactions been like? Must have sent ripples everywhere.
Ripples is a good word for it. On one side, you've definitely got Musk's supporters, his base. They're praising it, calling it a necessary disruption to what they see as political stagnation. You see comments on X, people getting excited about maybe a centrist alternative, something different.
Okay, so that's the supportive side. But I imagine there's plenty of skepticism, too,
Yeah.
especially from the political establishment and analysts.
Yeah.
What are they saying about whether this can actually work long-term?
Oh, yes. Significant skepticism. If you connect this to let's say, the bigger picture of American politics, most analysts are pretty doubtful about the long-term viability. They point to these really significant structural challenges that third parties always face in the U.S. Things like just getting on the ballot in all 50 states, which is incredibly complex and expensive. And then there's the winner-takes-all electoral system itself.
Right, winner takes all. That basically means second place gets nothing, right?
Right.
Makes it super hard for smaller parties to gain a foothold.
Exactly. Unless you win the most votes in a district or state, you get zero representation. It heavily favors the 2 established parties.
Have analysts pointed to specific potential effects or historical parallels?
They have. Some suggest, for instance, that the most immediate effect might be splitting the Republican vote, which could, ironically, end up benefiting Democrats, at least in the short term. Defeat Townley from the University of Portsmouth was one source making that point. And yeah, people immediately bring up historical examples of third-party bids that ultimately fizzled out, like Ross Perot's campaign back in 1992. Remember that? It got a lot of attention but didn't translate into lasting power.
Perot. Right, good comparison.
Yeah.
And there were also some practical questions, weren't there? Like, had they even filed the official paperwork with the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, when they were announced?
That was unclear, at least initially. The announcement came fast, but the formal registration process, well, the details on that weren't immediately available. And beyond just registration, Musk himself hasn't really provided a ton of detail on, say, a broader party platform beyond fiscal conservatism, or even who else is involved in the leadership.
Okay, so what about the man at the center of the initial conflict? How did former President Trump himself react to the America Party announcement? Did he seem worried?
Worried. Doesn't seem like it. Trump pretty much dismissed it outright, called it ridiculous. He doubled down on his faith in the traditional 2-party system. His quote was something like, "Third parties have never worked, so he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous." So clearly, Trump seems to see it less as a serious political threat and more as just, the next chapter in his personal feud with Musk.
Just fun. Interesting.
Yeah.
What about other voices? Anyone else weigh in? Maybe other political figures or commentators?
Yeah, that's an important question, too. Beyond Trump's dismissal, you had other critics. Steve Bannon, for instance, reportedly called the whole thing a publicity stunt and questioned Musk's real motives. But on the flip side, it's worth noting that some other prominent figures, people like Mark Cuban, maybe Andrew Yang, have apparently expressed at least some level of interest or curiosity about the initiative. So it's not universally dismissed.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What does it all mean? We've seen the America Party emerge directly from this really dramatic, very public split between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Its stated goals are pretty ambitious, become this key swing bloc in Congress, push fiscal conservatism. But the reactions are all over the place, right? From huge enthusiasm from his supporters to deep skepticism from analysts and outright dismissal from Trump.
That sums it up well. The bottom line is, the creation of the America Party, regardless of whether it succeeds in the long run, definitely injects this new, unpredictable element into the U.S. political scene, especially with elections always seeming to be just around the corner. It's a really dynamic situation and something we'll absolutely need to keep watching closely.
So thinking about those historical challenges that third parties always face in the U.S. system, what does this emergence of the America Party, driven largely by one incredibly wealthy individual and fueled by a personal feud, what does it tell you, our listener? Does it say more about the current level of political dissatisfaction out there, the sheer power of personal wealth and social media? Or maybe just that enduring, persistent desire people have for some alternative to the traditional two parties? Definitely something to keep an eye on, can you say?